I'm hoping you can see these slides.
Yes.
Wonderful. So thank you all very much for joining for the student workshop series, the final one and the fifth one. And today's workshop is regarding how to present a flash talk. I'll actually present a flash talk style talk myself, and I'll use that as a guideline to showcase how each of you can present one. Good afternoon. My name is Ranjit Kudali, and my talk is titled Artificial Leaf to Power the Earth. Most life on Earth relies on photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, plants that contain the pigment chlorophyll use sunlight energy and convert water and carbon dioxide to chemical energy. Oxygen is also released as indicated on the left-hand side of the slide. In a sense, a leaf can be considered as an intricate and miraculous machine converting light energy into chemical energy. Despite billions of years of evolution, the maximum theoretical efficiency of photosynthesis is only 11%. Practically, the efficiencies are much lower and from 1% to 8%. What if we instead seek inspiration from nature and construct a device, an artificial leaf, if you will, that is able to maximize the conversion of sunlight into useful energy to power our world? This would mean that we could use solar energy and allow the reaction of carbon dioxide and water to produce energy. In this new green world, we will be able to solve two big challenges of our times: the growing energy demand and the environmental issues. We will no longer need to rely on fossil fuels for our energy needs. In our research, we have used knowledge from photosynthesis and have created an artificial leaf. This novel material, called a nanocatalyst, as indicated on the right-hand side of the slide, was synthesized using new chemical methods and earth-abundant materials to minimize costs. The nanocatalysts act like chlorophylls in plants and have the abilities to absorb sunlight. Activated by light, this material is able to convert carbon dioxide and water to generate oxygen and energy in a laboratory setting. The efficiency of the current process is only 4%. Our future work will be focused on increasing the efficiency of this novel technology. Our research indicates a bright and exciting future to harness solar energy and provide cost-effective and creative solutions to create a sustainable planet. Our research also helps capture carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that is primarily responsible for climate change and associated environmental problems. Thank you. So what I had done, folks, is give a flash talk-like presentation. And for those of you who are not familiar, let's look at the next slide. Essentially, a flash talk is similar to an elevator pitch. Presenter has 3 minutes or less, and I timed my talk that I gave. It was 2 minutes and 47 seconds or so. And I used one PowerPoint slide, and I talked about in a way or in a style that a lay person can understand. So these flash talks have become very popular, especially at scientific conferences and research conferences, so that a general audience who is not a specialist in working in that specific area can understand the importance, the necessity, and the impact of the scholarly work. So these have increasingly become very popular. And at the Student Research Conference last year, we introduced the flash talk, and we hope that we will have undergraduate students and potentially graduate students as well contribute to a flash talk. So how do we present a compelling story that indicates the importance of the scholarly work, the impact of the work, and in a language that a lay audience can understand. So the remaining slides provide you guidance regarding those aspects. You want to tell a story. People like stories, they relate to stories. And the way to think about this is to present the talk and divide it into three sections: a beginning, a middle, and an end. In the beginning, you would like to talk about why did you do that scholarly work, that creative work or research work. In the middle, you talk about your results. What have you unearthed? What have you found? What new knowledge or new discoveries have you made? And in the end, you come back and tie the importance by talking about the impact. What impact will your studies do to the society, to the discipline, to the world, for example? So one of the challenges is how can you present your research within 3 minutes? And so the best way is to break it down into smaller sections, as I indicated in the bullet point 1. So we start with a great beginning. You want to make an impact and capture the attention of the audience. So you need some catchphrases that bring or call into attention the importance or the necessity of the topic. And then you highlight your different points, your findings, and then you have a summary of the impact that your research could potentially do with more work done in the future, and that will restate the importance or the necessity that you had talked at the beginning. So these are 3 elements of how to tell a compelling story that you can relate to the audience, and the audience is very engaged and raptured by your talk. What I have done when I presented my slide or my flash talk is I used a script. I practiced it, and that helps. What I also did was I did not use any jargon or technical language. The most complicated word I used was photosynthesis, and I used another term, nanocatalyst, and I explained what these technical terms are. So writing for an audience is very critical in a flash talk. We have to avoid jargons, we have to avoid academic language so that a lay person can understand. So essentially, we are trying to explain concepts and stories and people important to the research, but not necessarily the abstract viewpoint or the theories that the audience may not understand. Another important aspect is to highlight the outcomes of the research. What has your results shown, and what will be the outcome with more research being done in the future? So the way to think about it is writing in a manner that you're explaining your research to a close friend or a fellow student, but from an entirely different discipline. And you want to also convey your excitement and enthusiasm in your talk by changing your voice, by using high pitches and low pitches, etc., at appropriate times. So the audience is fully engaged and captured by your quality of talk. And another aspect to think is, what are the key takeaways from your presentation? So have a clear outcome in the 3rd section. We talked about a beginning, a middle portion, and in the end. The end is the impact. The audience has to know why you did the research, what has been your result, and what is the impact of your work. So you want to lead the audience with an understanding of what you're doing. Even if the research is very complex, you have to write in a manner such that a lay person can understand. And what you hope to achieve, it's possible that not all of your research has been completed. There is room to do more, but at least you have to say what could be the potential impact. And how can you do this? Proof your presentation, read it aloud to yourself, practice to an audience of friends and family, and ask for feedback. And your audience should be able to provide you with quality feedback and clearly understand what your research is all about and why it is important. And you'll notice, and I'll go back to my slides, I did not have any text in my slides. I just had a picture of natural photosynthesis, which is discussed in middle school. And I had an image of a nanocatalyst that is similar to a leaf. So it's an artificial leaf. I had no text. I had just two figures. And so a compelling visual PowerPoint is always helpful. And that is why I have this comment, less is more. The audience is trying to understand what the speaker is communicating. So they are in tuned, listening, and we want the slides to complement those. We do not want a busy slide with text. We just want a clear visual that will help the audience understand what is being discussed. And hence, too much text and complicated graphics can be extremely distracting. And we do not want the audience to read the slides. We would like the audience to listen to your talk. And that's why it is always recommended to have less text, have minimal visuals, but use both the combination of the visuals and the oral presentations to make a very compelling talk. And here are some additional suggestions on how you can make the talk more engaging. We talked about why should you tell a story? And that is where a personal touch can always allow the audience to understand the impact. If you're doing something that is research or creative scholarship that will have a personal touch, it provides more excitement and engagement to the audience. Creativity drives interest. So do not entirely rely on a slide alone. So make a compelling oral talk to convey your message. So the visuals complement your oration. And so as you are thinking of a script for your flash talk, think how your slide may be able to assist with the format and delivery. Does the slide detract or add quality to your oral talk and explain your research? Many of us think visually, and having a picture, an image, will help us better understand the research. So please think how the visual and your oral talk will have synergy. And an engaging visual presentation can make or break an oration. So please ensure that when you prepare the slides, they are legible, they are clear, they are concise, and the font size is large enough that the audience at the back of the room can clearly read. And I'll have some examples of some good slides and some bad slides. So here is an example of a slide that is taken from a talk given in Australia. So I'll welcome some comments from the students at this point regarding the quality of the visual. Obviously, there is no audio here, but just compare and contrast this slide with the one that I had used to give my flash talk. So I'm going back to the slide, and I would welcome comments in the chat box, or unmute yourself and provide comments as to your perspective as to how you see this visual slide that was presented for a flash talk or a 3-minute thesis. comments are welcome from the students. Or the slide is, well, I'll look at the chat. The words are too small, I can't read them. Thank you, Layla. I certainly agree, it's very hard. You have to squint your eyes to read some of these words like cultural system. Some of the text seem large enough, but by and large, it becomes very challenging to read the text. The other comments, the arrows are nice. However, there is a lot to look at. Seems like there would be a lot more information to go over 3 minutes worth. That's from April. Thank you. And Jackson, you had commented, seems that there is a lot going on for a 3-minute talk. Wonderful. So I'll look at the chat as well, but these comments are represent a very busy slide. There are so many graphics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are arrows going from upper left all the way to the bottom right. And so it may be a challenge for this individual to talk in depth, especially for a non-specialist audience, and convey all the information that is presented in this slide within 3 minutes. So this slide is too busy. The fonts, there are different styles in terms of the figures. Some have a black or a gray background, and there are tables, there are bell curves, and it is hard to read the graphs. So while the quality of the research may be excellent, it is a disservice in trying to discuss all of the slides and come away with a key take-home message. So this is something that we would like students interested in presenting the flash talk to avoid. I'll give you another example as to what should not be done. So here is something, we do not have as many images in this slide in comparison to the previous one, and I welcome comments in the chat box, or you can unmute your microphone and provide the comments orally. So your thoughts, perspectives regarding this slide? There's also slides were overwhelming. Carrie, thank you for your comment to the previous one. I overlooked it. So the comments are, it seems too complicated for the audience. Layla, thank you for your comment. So while I'm waiting for comments, I'm trying to look at, so when we look at initially at this slide, looks much better in terms of providing a supplement to the actual presentation, assuming the, since we don't have the script or the audio, we have to assume that the oral talk complements some of the information here, right? So thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Layla. So if we look at this slide, yes, there is a little, there are two big images, but when you look at, for example, the fonts and the colors, for example, there are certain things in green that we don't know yet because we don't have the script. So let us give the benefit of doubt to the speaker. But when you look at certain fonts and colors, we need to be mindful that if there are members in the audience who are colorblind, they may have a challenge in looking at some of the colors in the slide. And if we focus on the words leukemia, that are indicated twice in blue and pink, the pink and blue detract from the quality of the slide. Definitely, there is improvement. The text behind the figure on the left-hand side is relatively short or small, I should say. So it is an improvement, but some of the color choices in the slide may not be appropriate, especially if some members in the audience are colorblind. So one thing to pay attention to while one is preparing a flash talk using one slide is, in addition to a very compelling visual, using 1, 2, or 3 images, one also needs to be looking at the font sizes, the color of the fonts, and the size of the fonts so that the audience can visually look at those texts and the images. Wonderful. Moving forward, here are some additional suggestions. Practice, practice, practice. It is often a challenge to give a presentation when there is a limit of time, and 3 minutes will go very quickly. What is also important is you want to exude confidence, you want to have clarity, and so practicing will help you ensure that you are within the time limit. And I had briefly talked about it, have a wide array of vocal range. There are certain things you would like to talk very loudly. Some you have to lower your voice, and do not go too fast or too slow, and speak clearly and use a variety in your voices. Every information that is being presented is perhaps new to the audience members who may not be working in the same area or have a different background. And so do not rush, find your own rhythm, and speak very clearly. And remember to pause because you're trying to cram as much information to the audience, but at times a pause for a second or two will allow the audience to process the information that is being presented so they have time to think about what is being said. I have a link here. It is a TEDx talk given by Julian Treasure, and it's a fabulous TED talk presentation, and I have seen it multiple times. And the title is self-explanatory. It says how to speak so that people want to listen. And that's the whole point of the flash talks. Body language is very critical. So the flash talk presenters will be presenting in person, standing, using up to 1 PowerPoint. So you need to make eye contact with the audience. You need to hold your head up. And we recommend not to turn your back to the audience. So you want to look in the eyes of the audience. And also you'll need to make good use of your hands. It is okay to move. And some people like to be stationary, some like to move, but you need to pace yourself so that you are not moving very fast from one location to another location within the room. The other things is to stand straight and confidently. So that is something that comes with practice. And when we are nervous, we play with our hair, we pick our hair, we roll back on our heels, etc. And so to exude confidence, it's a good idea not to make those common mistakes, and to stand straight, look confident, and make eye contact with the audience. And one way to practice is to record yourself and listen to your presentation to look for opportunities, whether you're pausing, whether you're having the entire vocal range, are you rushing too quickly, or is it too slow? So by recording yourself and replaying, you have an opportunity to self-critique. And in addition, if you can give a mock presentation to friends and family members who may not necessarily know your research and have different backgrounds, you will get high quality feedback. So this will give an opportunity for you to work on your weaknesses and harness your strengths. There are several videos in these links here. The 3MT that you see here is a competition for graduate students, where graduate students present their talk within 3 minutes or less. Since we also have undergraduate students potentially participating in the flash talk, we are calling it a flash talk. So there are some great presentations. The Vimeo link has a long list of diverse disciplines where students have made presentations. Another opportunity are to look at leaders, academicians, politicians, journalists who do this for a living. They're great orators. And so look at some of these role models to get an idea as to how they communicate to the audience and how they engage. A question that comes to us very often is, how do you dress? The dress code that is suggested is like one for a job interview or an important meeting. A business casual is typical. So you want to appear very professional, very confident, etc. And this is the last slide. And so at the Student Research Conference, that is now called the WKU Student Scholar Showcase, we have a time slot between 11:15 a.m. and 12 noon for the flash talks, and hence there are only limited spots available. So if any of you are interested, please send an email to student.showcase@wku.edu by March 14th. So there is a week. All we are asking is having the subject heading flash talk. We need a short abstract of 100 words or less. We do not want to make it very onerous. Typically, a word length of 300 words or less will help a student complete a flash talk within 3 minutes or less. And the Office of Research and Creative Activity that is overseeing the Student Scholar Showcase with support and help from the Student Showcase Council members, that includes Professor Thompson, will work on identifying the students selected for the presentation. Like I said, the annual student conference is on Saturday, April 1st, and the flash talk is from 11:15 to 12 noon. So we have only limited spots available. With that, I will stop, and I'll be willing to answer any questions that any of you might have. Thank you so very much for joining with us this afternoon.